Hey, folks. Don't remember. If you want any more, let me know, and I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. It's so good of you to finally come here, Claire.
Why do you make it?
I'm glad that we can both sit down and talk like civilized people about what the struggle is going on in the family. We need to find a way to bring peace to the world builder studios.
Agreed.
I need you, Claire, to help me with a very important thing.
What would that be?
Tell me this one thing. Not once have you ever invited me to your home for coffee and cake, or canoe or something.
A what?
A canoe, it's like a little fancy, very stuffing, it's all that.
I don't understand a word you're saying.
Sorry. Left in the cotton balls in my mouth, it kind of did that,
You should have stuff in your mouth.
Anyways, I'm doing a review on Godfather. Will you help me out with this?
Could have just said it like that.
I know, but it would have felt wrong not doing the Corleone impression.
Alright.
Well, since you're here watching, I'm Thomas McClelland from World Builder Studios.
I'm Claire McClelland.
And today, we're going to do possibly one of the best gangster films ever made, The Godfather.
Stay in and watch.
Okay. The Godfather. Have you ever read the book?
No, unfortunately.
It's a good book. I haven't read it. It's by Mario Puzo, and he made it as kind of like a jab at a lot of Sicilian lifestyles at the time. Particularly with one particular family, the Borgia family.
True, they were intense.
And if those of you who don't know who the Borgias are, that would be Pope Alexander VI, his son Cesare, and his daughter Lucrezia Borgia.
They were one of the most feared families in that history.
Pretty much, and a lot of people associate them with bringing up the image of the Mafia, pretty much.
Because in a way, they kind of started the idea of the word mafia.
Now, to be fair, the word Mafia has been associated with a lot of Italian crime families, particularly in Sicily, for a couple thousands of years almost now.
That's true.
But the first real true depiction of the Mafia came when Italian Americans, like Italians, came over to America and Canada, and they spread over a lot of their traditions. Particularly, they started up setting up their own crime families there. And New York particularly had the most influence of a lot of Italian American immigrants there.
Yeah.
And life was really hard for these guys. I mean, they had to work crack jobs for crack wages and all that stuff pretty much.
And live in like really shitty places.
They had to work the worst job just to live there pretty much.
Pretty much. It was hell.
So, these Mafia guys showed up and they said, "Hey, what's about you offer me some service and we make a life more easy for you,
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Hey, want a drink maybe?
Yeah.
While she's pouring the drink, I'll explain a little more. So basically, with a huge influx of all that crime going on, it led to a wave of anti-Italian rhetoric pretty much. In fact, a lot of people just assumed the Mafia was just an Italian thing pretty much. Oh, thank you. But it was more than that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the story of Mafia, which is really good to be honest.
It is a really good story. Very intense.
Very intense, very dramatic. Yeah. Salute.
So,
Alright. So we meet up with the big Don in New York, Don Corleone, played by a very puffed up Marlon Brando. Did you know Marlon Brando based that whispery kind of talking on a real life gangster?
yeah, that's true.
He based it off of Frank Costello, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
And interesting enough, Frank Costello was based on another movie bad guy also.
Oh?
Did you ever see The Departed?
No.
Well, The Departed's an interesting case. The Departed's a movie based on an Irish mafia in Boston, and Jack Nicholson's character is called Frank Costello. Although he doesn't talk as whispery like that, all that stuff. But besides that, Don Corleone represents the old tradition of the Mafia.
Yeah.
That old one from Europe and all that, pretty much. And unfortunately, his type of morality can't survive in this world, pretty much.
Exactly, because the world is changing around him so fast.
That's what the movie's mostly about. It's about nostalgia. How things are moving too quickly and we don't know what to do with them,
Exactly.
pretty much. But besides that, we also get another thing with Vito.
Yes.
Respect. It's the respect that he wields with just one finger, pretty much. Basically, he's the puppet master. You ever see that image of that giant hand holding the string thing?
That was him.
That was the idea. That's what he represents. Just controlling everyone like they were puppets above a string. And then we meet the family. So we got his three sons. Sonny, Fredo, and Michael.
And then they have a sister.
The sister also. And also technically Tom, if you count him also.
That's true.
Now Tom's interesting because he's technically not part of the family, but they treat him just like one.
Pretty much.
Because he's adopted, right?
He's adopted.
And he's not Italian also, he's like Irish and German, I think. But in Tom's case, he's the most rational of everyone else.
That's true.
Like the way he's just able to talk to that movie producer dude and sort of like not flinch at all. I love it.
Yes, that was good.
And that movie producer dude's just going crazy like, yeah, I had her. She was the best piece of ass I've ever had in the industry. And then he's like, okay, how do you like your horse head, by the way? Yeah, well, yeah, remember that horse head scene?
Did you know that apparently, like, animal
Activists.
were, like, pissed? Even though people said it's fake.
It's clearly a fake horse head. They wouldn't actually cut off a horse head, right?
Yeah.
Like, good lord. Calm the hell down, PETA.
Well, that was before PETA became an organization. This was, like, way before that,
The forerunners of PETA, I guess.
pretty much.
But, if you want to kill a horse, just call Michael Cimino, as I say. Less said about that, the better. But besides Tom, we also get Fredo, who doesn't really do much in this film at first, but I kind of like Fredo in this. He's the middle child. So, with the middle child, you don't really know where his loyalties lie, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Even though he does get bought out by that guy in Vegas, Mo Green, remember?
Yeah, and Michael was pissed.
You don't ever go against the family, Fredo. Like, come on, Fredo. But thank God for the actor who plays Fredo, because he only did like 5 movies in his career before he died of bone cancer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And every film he was in, he was great in, pretty much.
Exactly.
So rest in peace, my man. But besides Fredo, let's also talk about Sonny now, played by James Caan.
Oh boy, yeah.
Interesting fact, he also had something in his mouth, just like Don Corleone also.
Oh?
You notice when Sonny's really mad, you can see his teeth kind of flaring and all that?
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason for that. He has a prosthetic fang put in his mouth right here. Because according to Francis Ford Coppola, he wanted Sonny to be that aggressive, kind of snarling look, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why he put fangs in his mouth. Sonny's a bit of the hot one, you know?
He's a hothead.
He's a hothead. He feels like the only way to respond to anything is with violence, pretty much.
Exactly.
And
Unfortunately, that's what gets him killed.
yeah, because he gets, once again, too emotional, pretty much. As he said, it's never personal, it's always business. But besides Sonny, let's talk about our favorite character now,
Michael.
Michael, played by a very young Al Pacino in this.
Mm-hmm.
Now this was before that yelly, screamy Al Pacino we're all associated with nowadays, pretty much.
Exactly. This is way before that.
So this is a more calm and softly spoken Al Pacino. He lets loose a few times, but for the most part, he barely even puts his voice above a whisper, pretty much.
Well, that's because he doesn't need to do that.
The only way to get authority and respect is to let people know that at any moment, their life could go out just like a candle.
Pretty much.
Exactly. And Michael knows how to wield that. Which is weird, because he's reluctant at first to accept the position of Don, pretty much.
Well, because for the longest time, he didn't want to be associated with that, because he was
in the Army, right?
He was in the Army, he went to school.
Went to Harvard, I think, or something like that. And he was dating Kay also at the time.
He had a pretty good life ahead of him, even without the...
being associated with the Mafia and all that.
Exactly.
But destiny has a strange way of bringing you into it, pretty much.
As many people say, if you have a family line that has, as it's called, cursed blood, you're never able to really get out of it.
And Italians would know a thing or two about that, pretty much.
Exactly.
But besides that, I also kind of like the fact that Kay, for the most part, feels completely different from the movie, pretty much.
She really feels like an outsider, which she kind of is.
I mean, her clothes are even different. Like, everybody's wearing, like, these sort of black or sort of tan suits and every butt thing. But she's wearing these bright colors, pretty much.
Yes.
It's only near the end that she starts wearing more darker colors, because by that point, she's now part of her lifestyle, pretty much.
Exactly.
And speaking of thematic tones, do you ever wonder why this movie is so dark?
Sort of.
Well, because they wanted to get the same tone as a lot of the films from the 40s and 50s, actually.
That makes sense.
It got to the point where the guy who was doing the cinematographer was nicknamed the Master of Darkness because he always shot everything dark. In fact, you remember that whole legend about the whole cursed oranges legend?
Oh, yeah.
About how every time an orange shows up, somebody's gonna die or something like that? Well, and the reason they put the oranges in the movie is because they wanted to make something stand out with all the dark cinematography. So, oranges. That's why.
I don't mind. I like oranges.
Oranges are good for you kids. Eat your oranges.
Yes.
Or you'll get gunned down by a bunch of Italian mobsters. Oh, man, this movie got so many good thematic themes. Like, I love it where after Michael kills those guys in the bathroom with that gun in the toilet,
Yeah.
and then he moves to Sicily and everything,
Yeah.
it looks like he's entered a different world because everything looks old and kind of ancient. Like, that's the old ways pretty much, and Michael doesn't really fit in really there.
Yeah, pretty much. He's too modernized.
Speaking of modernized, they wanted to shoot a village in Sicily, but there's one problem. It was too modernized.
Yeah.
Because by the time they were shooting it, there was like roads and telephones and everything was modernized and everything. They wanted something a little more kind of rural and rustic. So they went to a different sort of town in Italy and they shot it there, in fact.
Yeah.
Interesting fact, all those locals you see at the wedding scene, those aren't locals. Those are actual legit Italian peasants, actually.
Oh.
Like, those are actually legit Italian farmers and everything. Yeah, that wedding scene's a bit weird, though, because when you realize that Michael returns back, he never tells Kay about the time he was married to that other girl.
Yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, I was married for a little bit.
Yeah, you're a dick, Michael.
You're a dick.
Pretty much. No, there's so many good details in this film. Like, did you know the fact that the cars in this film, in order to get that authentic feel, they replaced, you know how cars have like a metal bumper in front of the car?
They had to replace it with wooden because back in the old days, they
were
were wooden.
Because at that point in World War II, all the cars had to give up their metal bumpers so they could melt it down for weapons and ammunition, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So everybody had wooden bumpers instead. Or here's another interesting thing. You remember that, that famous scene that everybody talks about? You know what I'm talking about? The baptism scene.
Christianing.
The christening of the kid. That baby, guess who that is? That's Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, Sofia Coppola.
Yep.
Who unfortunately would end up in the third one.
Yeah.
Thank God she's a good director.
Yeah, but not a good actor, obviously.
They wanted Winona Ryder, but they couldn't get her apparently. But don't worry, Winona would later end up in that Bram Stoker's Dracula film.
So respect.
Respect her. But the christening scene, honestly, my favorite scene. I was in film class, I remember, and we had to study that scene all the time.
We had to study that too in film class, yeah.
Pretty much, like...
It's very iconic, like when he shoots him through the glasses in his eyes when he's...
at the massage parlor.
Yeah.
Or how people are being gunned down while Michael's saying, "Do you renounce Satan?" I do.
And you clearly are shown images that, yeah, he's not.
So basically, not only is he being baptized as the Godfather to his sister's child, but now he's being baptized as the Godfather of the family, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Damn.
Oh boy.
You gotta give it up to the acting in this film. It's really good, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's so good, in fact, that Marlon Brando, who is notorious for not getting along well with younger actors, apparently, here's something that really happened. He pulled Al Pacino to the side. It was just after that scene in the hospital.
Where he promised his father,
"I'm going to take care of you, Pop. I'm going to take care of everything." Apparently, Pacino said that tear that you see coming down his face,
that was real.
that was Marlon Brando crying about how beautiful that acting was.
Yeah.
And he pulled Pacino to the side and said, "I want to tell you, kid, you did really good. You did really good." And now, my favorite thing, let's talk about some controversy with this film.
Oh yeah, they had a bit of problems with this.
You see, the studio wanted this film to be a more schlocky, kind of exploitative film that the 70s were known for, pretty much. But no, Francis Ford Coppola wanted a more realistic, actual historical film about the Mafia during the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to get a bunch of actors who dropped out at the moment. Like, apparently Martin Sheen was going to be the part of Michael.
Mm.
But unfortunately, this was just after Apocalypse Now, so fresh blood.
Ah, right.
And here's my personal favorite thing. Did you know the actual American Mafia at the time was not happy with this film?
No, they were not.
Like, actual representations from some of the families in that area came to the set and made sure that under no circumstances would the word Mafia in the script.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they cut out every mention of the word Mafia in there, pretty much.
That's really scary.
Like, did you know, like, that guy, that singer guy that asked for the Godfather's help?
Mm-hmm.
He was originally going to be played by another person, Frank Sinatra.
Oh.
However, Sinatra may have had dealings with the actual Mafia.
So he didn't want to be like...
Yeah, like, come on, I don't need that stuff out in the thing there, baby. Come on.
Yeah.
But, in my opinion, it makes this film a lot more classy than a lot of other gangster films, pretty much.
That's true, because...
Some of them can be a bit trashy, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Less said about Gotti, the better. Although, it's important to remember that these gangsters films, like, the guys in The Godfather, they're no saints, pretty much.
None of them are, like, redeemable.
Like,
They all have done some notorious and nefarious things.
plus, they're pumping drugs into New York, which was kind of a big problem at the time.
So is...
And unfortunately, they admit that they're only going to sell that stuff to, like, poor neighborhoods or neighborhoods with black people in it. Yeah. Yeah. But that's why I like films like Goodfellas, because it actually shows that these are detestable people. The Godfather just tries to cover it up, pretty much.
Yeah. But that's the thing, you love both of them for their different qualities.
All I can say is the sequel's a bit better.
Yeah.
Like, a lot better. And with that, I'd like to say, folks, thank you for seeing us here, talking about The Godfather Part 2. And if you want any more things, hit the bell to get notifications. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And hit us up on our social medias.
Like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what have you. We'll
And-
be listening.
And if you want any more suggestions, shoot them down in the comments. And if they want any more of our videos, what can they do, Claire?
They can look this up.
Mm-hmm. And other than that, salute.
Absolutely. Like and subscribe. Because we will come for you. And I'm talking about those internet trolls. I don't want none of that. Nice talking to you.